What's the point in riding to a pool when you can't swim? The pool in question isn't really a pool though, it's the Fraser Baths in Balmain, which are the oldest sea pool, or is the oldest sea pool in Australia. Being the oldest, it was probably also the most worn out and run down, so work started in October 2019 on sprucing the baths up. That work was supposed to finish in December this year, but here we are nearly halfway through December, and I'm not sure they'll be opening anytime soon. I thought I'd pop over and have a look and try and work out a good route to get there so that when they do finally open, I don't have to faff around with route finding. Which is a good idea because the route I ended up taking was an absolute shocker. I think I managed to find every staircase and impossibly steep hill in Balmain. I have discovered where not to go, which is probably just as useful as knowing where to go. We'll start with the easy bit, which involved riding around the Bay Run. If you're not a fan of hills but you want somewhere to swim, I'd suggest stopping at the Balmain pool and not going any further. When I got to the Iron Cove Bridge, I could have crossed over and headed straight for the pool, the baths, but I have become addicted to the sausage rolls that they sell at the Burke Street Bakery, which is in Booth Street, so I thought I'd go there first, and that was a huge mistake on several counts. The first is that after stuffing myself with a delicious pork and fennel sausage roll, I was then confronted by some horrible little hills, and I thought at one point I was going to regurgitate that sausage roll. The second is that traffic on Darling Street was an absolute shocker. It took me 12 minutes to crawl the 2 kilometres up to the bakery. That's a smashing speed of an average of 10 kilometres an hour. Yes, it would have been faster if I'd taken some back streets instead, and I could have followed the lead of the food delivery riders and taken some chances with riding up left of the traffic, but I wasn't in a hurry, and I thought it would be interesting to record just a small amount of vehicle traffic and bring Balmain to a screaming halt. That should be just record how just a small amount can bring vehicle traffic halt. I think you get what I mean. I'm sure this isn't news to anyone that lives on the peninsula, but next time an idiot car driver yells at you for slowing them down, just point them in the direction of Balmain. What I did learn from this is that Darling Street is a silly route to take unless you like window shopping, people watching, or breathing in bus exhaust fumes. Because this video is about active transport options, let's take a quick detour into the Community Engagement Report the Council published back in 2017. It's got 12 pages of feedback and comments, but we'll just focus on a couple of the points. The first is that 84% of people who responded to the Community Engagement Survey live pretty close by in places like Balmain, Rozelle and Leichhardt. The baths do get some use by people travelling in from places like Canada Bay and Five Dock, etc., but far and away most of the users are locals. That probably explains the next thing, which is how people travel to the baths. Only 38% drove, with 39% walking and 17% riding a bike. I found that really quite surprising. But as we'll see soon, either those 17% who cycle are very fit, or they know a secret flat route that I'm yet to find. There's page after page of feedback, but I did like this comment which says, "Keep as a quiet oasis the locals can enjoy." At the end of the report there's a page of common themes. Parking always gets raised in these community consultation sessions, and this one is no exception. A lack of parking at the baths was raised by many respondents as an issue. Now, having ridden around the surrounding streets, I can see why this is a problem. But how the heck is council supposed to solve it? The area surrounding the baths is built up with housing and units and crisscrossed by streets that are narrow and generally steep. The access road into the baths is a dead end. Even if council tore off a chunk of Elkington Park and built a multi-storey concrete car park, how would you actually drive to and from the car park? You really can't squeeze any more vehicles into these streets, short of buying up and demolishing some very expensive housing in order to widen some roads. Did the people making these comments actually stop and think for a minute before making them? This isn't Eastern Creek where you can just bulldoze another dairy farm to provide a parking lot. This is Balmain. The other interesting theme was a lack of bike parking. I didn't see any racks when I stopped and had a look, but I didn't look that closely. So we'll have to see if council ends up applying the bicycle end-of-trip facilities methodology in the DCP 2007. That's the Development Control Plan, and calculated how many bike parking spaces need to be provided. I can't find any design drawings or plans for this project, so I don't know where they're going to put the bike parking and whether it will conform with crime prevention through environmental design principles or not. And what I mean by that is putting the bike rack in a place where there's natural surveillance, so thieves can't work on them because there's always people watching over the bikes. Now this is where my script ends, and I'm just going to blather on for the next 3 minutes and try and make some sense. Now this is Elkington Park, and it's a really, really nice little park, and even if you don't want to go for a swim, I suggest you go over here and just go around the park. It's a fabulous little piece of the world, and the reason I mention that comment about the oasis is, yes, it really is a nice little oasis. What I was looking for here is I was trying to get around the water in front of the units from Elkington Park around to whatever that other reserve was. This is just showing that the furthest point in Balmain is about 2.5 kilometres from the baths, which I guess is why a lot of people walk or cycle rather than drive, because it isn't that far. Now, getting out of Elkington Park, the paths are all pretty narrow, and the hills around here are super steep. So if you see the camera wiggling back and forth a lot, that's because I'm standing up in the saddle and pumping, and I had to do that an awful lot. And as you can see here, this is what I was going on about, the comments about parking being a problem. I mean, look at these streets, and this poor old truckie here, he was coming in to pick up a rubbish bin from a building site here. Someone's doing some renovations, and the only way I could get past was hop off the bike, lift it over a gap there so the handlebars would fit through, and he had to get some people to come out and move some cars and motorbikes and things. Now where I wanted to be was over to the right in front of those units there, down by the water, but I didn't seem to be able to find a way to get through there. So I came down here to see whether there was a path going around the water, because, well, there's a wharf there, and, well, look, there is a path, fantastic, and you can see the Iron Cove Bridge over in the distance, and I thought, this is going to be great. I stopped and took a photo and thought, if I can get around here, it's going to be just the great stairs. Well, maybe it's just a few stairs, maybe just a dozen stairs. I'll go, oh no, okay, well, another dozen stairs, fine if you've got a nice lightweight carbon bike, but mine's a heavy steel one. More stairs. Surely these stairs are going to end soon. I mean, obviously this was all built before easy access became a thing, because, how do you do this with a pram or a wheelchair or a wheelie walker or a gopher? I mean, if you're a bit old and your hips are gone or your knees are gone, you're kind of screwed. And like I said, prams, how do young families deal with this? Anyway, I actually had to do a little U-turn here because that road's so steep. I couldn't push off it directly. And sorry if the wiggle makes you a little bit sick, but yeah, you really do need to stand up, and this is where I just about regurgitated the sausage roll, I think. Just why you'd ever want to drive over here and try and park near the pool is beyond me. If you saw the parking in the dead-end street near where the pool is, there's just no parking there whatsoever. And well, interestingly, I probably saw about half a dozen abandoned cars while I was around here. So yes, they complain parking's in short supply, but people just park their cars and boats and trailers and forget about them. So this is like Balmain School here on the right. About the only flat part was getting out of here. I guess this is where I'd go to actually get there, is take this way, because it's quite a lot. It's nowhere near as steep as the other way. So look, if anyone knows a nice flat way to get across from the Iron Cove Bridge, feel free to put up some street names, etc. in the comments, or publish a map somewhere, because I think that would be really useful. So here we are, we're coming up to Victoria Road, and it's just a matter of following the path back to the Iron Cove Bridge. So in summary, yeah, great looking baths, well, I don't know if they're great looking, we'll see what it's like after the renovation's completed. But yeah, beautiful part of the world, definitely worth a visit, and it'd be really nice to see if we can find a pathway around the harbour.